Hello everybody and welcome once more aboard the Hype Train. I of course am Sir Beardian, and today we are going to be talking about a very interesting mechanic, boarding. Boarding in C# is similar in principle to VB6, with some adjustments for the new ground combat mechanics. The boarding attempt process is as follows. Only a ship with a boarding-equipped troop transport bay can be ordered to make a boarding attempt. Only formations that consist entirely of infantry can take part in a boarding attempt. So, no armor driving around inside the ships. Boarding attempts cannot be made against ships that are faster than the ship making the boarding attempt. A fleet given the attempt boarding action for a specified formation, or attempt boarding action for all formations, will attempt to end its movement in the same location as the target ship. If that happens, a boarding attempt will be made. The percentage chance of each individual unit or soldier conducting a successful boarding attempt is equal to 10% times the boarding speed divided by the target ship speed. So if the boarding ship is 10 times faster than the target ship, success is automatic. This means that boarding is effectively twice as accurate in C# than it is in VB6. Any unit with a boarding combat capability has double the normal chance of success. In this case, if the boarding ship is 5 times faster than the target ship, the success is automatic. In other words, 4 times more accurate in C# than VB6. Any unit that do not make the successful attempt are killed. If a HQ unit is lost, there is a chance the formation commander is killed on 1 divided by number of HQ units, which is an automatic kill result if only 1 HQ exists. Once on the target ships, the surviving attackers will move inside if there is a hole in the armor. If there is no hole, the boarders will use a breaching charge to destroy 1 armor at the weakest point every 30 seconds until they gain access. Once inside the target ship, a boarding combat round is conducted every 60 seconds. This is very similar in principle to ground combat, albeit without support artillery, aircraft, etc., and with no concept of front line versus rear. There is no fortification in the ground combat sense, but the defenders are given a fortification level of 2 to simulate the advantages of defense within the ship. Also, because this is a confined space and there are likely to be fragments of formations, each individual unit on each side randomly selects a target formation element on the opposing side using a weighted at random selection based on size, and conducts an attack using the normal ground combat procedure. The commanders of each formation provide a bonus to hit with their ground combat offense bonus, and provide a bonus to fortification with a base fortification of 1 on attack and 2 on defense, with their ground combat defense bonus. Any units on either side with boarding combat capability have double the normal chance to hit. For the purposes of boarding combat, the crew is a temporary formation with a single element composed of crew ground units and the morale equal to the current crew morale. A crew member is equipped with light personal weapons and has armor equal to half the lowest racial armor for infantry. Casualties in this temporary formation translate into crew losses, and morale losses translate into the same impact on crew morale. Given that the crew is not well equipped for a fight of this type, it is advisable for ships to carry a small marine detachment if there is a chance they may face boarding attacks, which in C# there actually is. If the target ship is a carrier, formations based on parasite ships will fight to protect the mothership. If all the defending units are killed, the ship is transferred to the new owners, although there may be some additional surrender rules so they don't have to kill all the crew. To simulate the difficulties in making use of a captured ship, especially as the defenders have no doubt locked out the controls and sabotaged whatever they can, the captured ship is treated as if it just abandoned an overhaul and is given an overhaul factor of 0.1. See the overhaul episode. If a ship is captured, the associated alien class is updated with complete information. Collateral damage can occur during boarding combat using the same rules as for ground-based collateral damage. All the damage is applied to the ship as a single internal hit. Because of the relatively small scale of shipboard combat, any fractional points of collateral damage have a percentage chance of becoming full points equal to the percentage of 1. Damage to transport bays due to collateral damage will not kill defending troops, as they are fighting on the ship and not located in the bay. If a ship is struck by external damage during boarding combat and one or more components are destroyed, there may be casualties among the boarding combatants on both sides. The damage to each engaged element is equal to the destroyed component's size divided by ship size times 0.25 plus random of 10 times 0.005. Complicated. The random roll is made for each element separately. So all in all, it's not exactly too different from boarding combat in VB6. It's just been basically converted into the C# ground combat mechanics. But it's nice that the bonuses for boarding also translate into more effective at actually landing on the ship, and that it's a lot easier to get troops onto the ship in the first place. Considering that 20 times speed is absolutely ridiculous, it's a good thing. But it's also really good that you can get, like, even just a company of, like, 10 to 20 Marines is entirely possible to have on a ship, right? It's entirely possible to have really, really small Marine complements. So that's really, really good. All right. Moving along, the research costs for the maximum engine power modifier line of technology have all been halved. Nice simple change. The minimum power modifier line of technology remains at VB6 research costs. So getting more powerful engines is going to be easier for your scientists. Another very interesting change. There is now a very small chance that one of the larger bodies in Sol may have alien ruins. This can happen on Mars, Mercury, the Galilean moons, Titan, Triton, Pluto, and Eris. There's only about 5% for Mars, 3% for Mercury, and 1% for Titan or Ganymede, and fractions of a percent for the others. So very, very small chance. Very small chance. I think this may have been converted into a toggle later on. Not entirely sure, but yeah. So yeah, no, that's very, very cool that you can actually find ruins really, really early on, which is great. All right, here is a fun change to infantry. They are now capable of being genetically enhanced. So genetic enhancement increases their hit points and makes them more resistant to damage. So far, there are 3 options. Basic, for 5,000 RP, which multiplies hit points by 1.25 and cost by 1.5. Improved for 10,000 RP, which boosts hit points by 1.6 and cost by 2. And Advanced, which costs 20,000 RP, boosts hit points by 2 times and costs 2.5. Once researched, the new capabilities can be chosen from the available capabilities list during ground combat design. These are all biology and genetics texts, and the first in the sequence can be researched following genome sequence research. Everything subject to testing. This is really cool because, once more, our biologists get a little bit more to do than just make all the other scientists sandwiches. So I really like having our bioscientists actually getting actual work. It's really nice that they actually have work to do now. So that's cool. Now, we touched on this previously, but shipyard worker requirements. So shipyards in VB6 require 1 million workers at base, plus 100 workers for each ton of capacity in naval yards and 10 for each ton of capacity in commercial yards. In C#, the base requirement is removed. Instead, naval shipyards require 250 workers for each ton of capacity, and commercial shipyards will require 25 workers for each ton of capacity. This is intended to bring shipyards in line with other major industry sectors such as construction factories, mines, and research facilities. Here are some examples for shipyards in the test campaign January 2019 with the old and new requirements. So we can see that C# requires more workers for some, but fewer workers for others. So, numbers. Interesting numbers. And this all ties into wealth generation changes. In VB6, wealth generation was based on total population. Therefore, some real-world nations with large populations, which have been used in multi-race starts, generate a lot of excess wealth, even though in reality their wealth output is more in line with their industrial output. India is a good example of this situation. VB6 tries to solve this by having an option to set lower starting wealth per capita for a nation. However, that penalizes the race throughout the whole game, because you can't really raise the base. In addition, conventional starts generate huge wealth excess as the population is initially producing wealth with minimal industry to consume it. For C# Aurora, wealth is produced only by workers in TN installations, simulating that wealth is more closely tied to industrial potential than total population. Each 1 million workers produces a baseline 100 wealth per annum. So it's a much higher baseline. I believe baseline in VB6, baseline in VB6 is like 20 wealth, whereas this is like 5 times more. And this can be improved by a new wealth generation tech line that replaces the VB6 civilian economy tech. This wealth is generated regardless of whether the installation to which the workers are assigned is currently building or producing anything. Wealth generation tech starts with 120 wealth per million workers for 3,000 RP, then 140 for 5,000, etc. Workers in conventional factories and forced labor camps do not produce wealth. So you do want to get those upgraded into Trans-Newtonian factories ASAP for conventional starts. Because very few facilities are actually going to be producing wealth at that point, which makes sense because perfectly in line with what Steve wants with wealth to be. Financial centers generate additional wealth equal to the tax from 250,000 workers, subject to change. Financial centers can be transported to other colonies, which is new. In addition to their other output, conventional factories function as 1/10 of a financial center. So the workers do not produce wealth from tax, but they do produce 25,000 workers worth of a financial center. So 25,000 workers worth of tax. I forget how many workers they actually employ though. Anyway, conventional factories can be converted to financial centers at a cost of 20 BP, including 10 Corbomite and 10 Iridium. It is also worth noting that the tax generation from shipping line has been doubled for C#. So the C# method has a few advantages over the VB6 method. High population, low industry nations are now easy to handle as most of the population does not generate wealth. It is assumed that the wealth from agriculture and service is used to cover welfare, health, education, etc., with a net wealth of 0. Conventional starts do not generate huge excess wealth because construction factories do not generate any taxation. As a nation industrializes, its wealth generation capacity grows naturally, which reflects historical trends. The planned wealth reserve cap can be removed. So I believe this may potentially negate the change of the wealth cap, the 2 times wealth cap. So this may potentially override that. And Steve obviously hasn't removed or modified the alt post. And financial centers grow in importance and have more of a wealth impact in relative terms compared to VB6. So this is another slightly controversial change because we're not entirely certain exactly how this will play out because I mean, we've seen test games and we know that it doesn't instantly bankrupt things. And Steve has obviously played enough that he's comfortable that the wealth generation isn't too high or too low. So it's not going to be completely broken. It shouldn't be completely broken, but it still changes things around. It still changes things, and it's going to definitely push people into having and actually employing people. So, yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. All right. New Trans-Newtonian races will start with the number of financial centers equal to 1/4 of their number of construction factories. So, in addition to all the other stuff that Trans-Newtonian races get, they're also going to get some financial centers for free, which is going to help boost their economy. Okay, last thing for today, fuel storage costs. So, something Steve realized, and Yeah, makes sense. Fuel storage is very expensive in Aurora compared to other storage modules. In terms of cost per hull size, they are more expensive than hangars or magazines. 3 times as expensive as cryo, 7 times as expensive as troop transport bays, and 60 times more expensive than cargo bays. They are also about 6 times more expensive than most productive modules, such as terraforming, salvaging, harvesting, jump point, etc. So this realization came about because is wondering why tanker was taking so long to build. Well, that was because build time is based on cost but modified by size. So high cost density ships takes a long time to build, and yeah, this is why tankers take so long to build. On that basis, storage costs have been reduced considerably, although staggered so the cost benefit of larger modules is improved. So you can see the table here. So it goes from 0.5 BP all the way up to 25 BP for ultra large. I did something like this as well when Steve released his for my mod. So it's a very good change. It's a very, very good change. I very much like it. All right. So that is it for today. Tomorrow we continue covering the changes for C# every day this month until launch, which is looking to be at the end of the month. So join me on the official Aurora Discord, Reddit, and forums. Links down below where you can join the discussion and the hype. And I will see you next time.